Oh boy, these comments are gonna be good. I'm envisioning a throng of slighted nerds currently grasping the hilts of their katanas and crying into their Hatsune Miku body pillows while writing a mouth-foamingly detailed rebuttal to me goofing on their bikes for 300-ish words. Honestly, we make fun of a lot of bikes on this channel. It's kind of our whole thing if you haven't noticed. But to all of the put-upon riders out there, the least able to take a joke are the nerdy dudes and dudettes who spent countless hours formulating a cost-benefit analysis spreadsheet before purchasing their motorcycle. You know, it explains a lot about a rider who doesn't buy a motorcycle because it makes their pee-pee tingle, but rather because of a wide variety of metrics including fuel economy, power-to-weight ratios, wheelbase length, chemical composition of the paint, and material used to make their keys. Their selected bike tick the most boxes. It's why they're so willing to sit down there in the comments and write a 1,000-word dissertation explaining in exhaustive detail that their motorcycle was empirically the best choice. Now, I know some of this is hitting a little too close for you at home, so I'm going to give you a nice little piece of advice from me to you. Listen close, my young squid. Life is too short to get the quote-unquote perfect motorcycle. Just go get something that makes you feel something, but for a brief short moment as you hurtle yourself closer to the big sleep. Maybe it's an R1, or a ZH2, or a 206/60, or a dual sport, anything that'll put a smile on your face. But it definitely shouldn't be a bike from this list. But before we get started, here's a quick word from our sponsor for today's video, Rockform.
Has this ever happened to you? You see, you don't need to use archaic technology like tape or zip ties if you want to check maps or change your music while you ride. Not only can you get a rock-solid mount for your bike, your car, your bathtub, etc., but you're also going to get the next level in cell phone safety systems. Rockform's low-profile case has been drop-tested from 6 feet and will keep your phone safe without turning it into a massive plastic brick in your pocket. It doesn't stop there, though. Rockform has sport rings, wireless chargers, and more. Click the link down below and use the code YN25 for 25% off your order.
Now let's get started with number 7, the Harley-Davidson Street 500. Do y'all remember when Harley tried making a liquid-cooled motorcycle and everyone hated it? No, I'm not talking about the V-Rod. No, I'm not talking about the Pan America either. That bike's actually pretty decent. I'm talking about the Street series of motorcycles. In an effort to sell more bikes in markets other than America, Harley decided to build some sportier small displacement engines and package them in bikes that were supposed to be able to handle twisties and have the same Harley styling that people have come to know and love, or loathe as the case may be. Regardless of where you land on the Harley looks, I think we can both agree that this here motorcycle looks like if Harley copied the Honda Shadow, which is a copy of a Harley. It's like a clone of a clone. It just starts degrading over time. If you squint and your phone screen has some gooch juice on it, you can almost see a cool bike under the skin, but then you buy a brand new phone and you look at it properly and it makes you want to hurl. They put this weirdly raked out front end on the bike to keep it cruisery, they put a bikini fairing on the front to mimic some of the club bike looks, and they badged it with the bar and shield, but this thing just screams, "Am I a real boy now?" And the answer is no. No, Street 500, you are not a real boy. You're exactly the opposite. You made the Iron 883 look desirable. Go hang out with your friends at the Nerds table. Look, I see the Suzuki C50 over there and the Vulcan 900. They'd love to hang out with you. Number 6 today goes to a bit of an odd duck and one you might not expect to see here in a list of nerdy motorcycles, but it's the Ducati Super Sport. Yes, unfortunately, even Ducatistas are not immune to the ways of the nerd, and boy oh boy did Ducati swing for the fences with this one. Let's start off with the name. It's called the Super Sport, right? So what do you think this is all about? Is it about hitting apexes at the racetrack, cracking dank nooners, and flexing on all your friends? Nope, it's just a sport touring bike. Ducati, in their infinite wisdom, took a long-standing nameplate, and in 2017, they took a Panigale and softened all the edges they could find and make it a more soft boy version of a sport bike they could make. I mean, theoretically, it's still a sporty bike. They have a bunch of pictures on their website of the bike going around racetrack real fast with the rider getting their knee down. But let's be honest, no one is buying a Super Sport over a V2 for fast boy things. By Ducati sport bike standards, this thing is downright anemic with only 110 horsepower and 69 foot-pounds of torque, which is good for a naked bike, but with bikes like the RS660 and the Tuono 660 available for less money and with better features, the Super Sport is left sitting alone on Ducati dealership floors, hoping that its Panigale-ish looks will be enough to confuse someone into accidentally buying a bike with no reason to exist. But hey, you can buy panniers for it, so you too can spend your 401k on plastic boxes that look like real sport touring boy things. Speaking of sport touring boys, the Yamaha Niken comes in at number 5. This is what happens when a manufacturer tries to do something different to entice people to get on a motorcycle who probably were never going to do it in the first place. Ooh, I would get on a bike, but they're just so unsafe. Cars have more contact points to the ground, and I don't want to have a bike slip out from underneath me, says some normie. Okay, Yamaha replied, how about a motorcycle with 3 wheels so you can have more traction and more stability? They went to work and came up with this monstrosity, and then the normie said, I'll think about it, and then vanished into thin air. Seriously, who was the Niken for? Is it for old people who can't hold up a bike anymore? Nope, it's not self-balancing at a stoplight. Is it for people who want a nice easy ride to commute? Nope, it's an MT-09 under all the plastics, so it's a raucous wheelie monster. It's pretty much a motorcycle made by engineers for engineers. I mean, look at the front suspension. It has 4 forks. This is a motorcycle that a nerd buys as a conversation starter when they go to bike night, so they don't have to break out their wallflower comfort zone and actually try to meet someone on their own. Yeah, sure, the Niken will get people talking, but not in the way you want them to. Much like the Super Sport though, you can buy factory hard bags for the bike so you can send to full nerd mode. Number 4 today is gotta go to the BMW R1200 CLC. Ugh, good God, just look at this thing. I'm getting secondhand pocket protector poisoning just from talking about it, but these are the sacrifices I make to you for the misery of owning this complete dorkmobile. Okay, let's start off with the bike underneath all that disgusting plastic. It's a BMW R1200C, which is a desperate attempt to their way into Harley-Davidson's motorcycling market domination among dentists and chartered accountants. They wanted a competitive cruiser and came out with this cream-colored abomination, and no one bought it. Or rather, nerds bought it and put bigger windscreens on it because too much wind in their face was giving them rashes. Based on the feedback of the tens of R1200C riders, BMW added a massive batwing fairing with no less than 6 lights on it, because you need to be visible to be safe, It has 4 headlights and a gigantic integrated blinkers, 3 windscreens, 1 for your face and 1 for each leg, and it can be fitted with backrests for both the passenger and the rider. I'm not sure why it has a passenger seat, because the only people who would be caught dead on one of these bikes already own one, and they live alone for a multitude of reasons, but chief among them is this motorcycle. If you think I'm being mean to this bike, then you go ride one. Yeah, that's what I thought. Number 3, 2, and 1 are all basically tied for first place because in their own ways they're ruining everything we love about motorcycles. However, this is a list and they need to go in some order, so taking the 3rd spot is the Honda NM4. This is what happens when Honda's design team watches too much anime. This is basically the bike from Akira, which in theory should be pretty cool, right? I mean, that is one of the cult classic media motorcycles and probably got a lot of people interested in getting on 2 wheels, and now they can buy a bike that looks like the one they wanted to ride. Unfortunately, the NM4 leaves a lot to be desired. Pretty much everything, in fact. First, it's not available in red, so no Akira cosplay for you. Second, it's a DCT bike, and that alone wins it some serious nerd cred. But secondly, look how much plastic is on this motorcycle. You can't see the engine at all, which is a good thing because it's using the 2nd worst engine ever built, Honda's 745cc parallel twin. Also, I need to talk about the ergonomics for a second. Just look at this person sitting on the bike. It's like they're trying to touch their toes. The ergos are so borked because Honda modeled it off in anime, and that's never a good idea. But hey, the rider-passenger seat flips up and turns into a backrest because let's face it, much like the R1200 CLC rider, the NM4 rider rides alone. Number 2 is the bike that gave us the NM4, the Honda NC750X. This is straight out of a Cycle World article on the previous gen NC700, but I think it sums it up so depressingly well. Welcome to the brave new world. New because the motorcycle you see here, Honda's innovative NC700X, is a distinct almost 180-degree change in direction from where motorcycles have been heading for many years, and brave because Honda rolled the dice with this all-new from the ground-up machine, gambling that there are legions of current, past, and would-be riders out there who want practicality, efficiency, and affordability much more than they crave 190 horsepower, 9-second quarter-mile times, and 5-digit price tags. That makes me so sad. The idea that someone would desire this frunk-having, no-power-making, Coke bottle glasses wearing vehicular form of the actually meme makes me want to drown my sorrows in Turbo Busas. But don't worry, it gets 73 miles to the gallon. If you're so frugal that you value money more than enjoying life's small pleasures and never needing to go wide open throttle, then sure, maybe the NC750X makes a little bit of sense. But then so does staying home and playing a one-man D&D campaign. I mean, if you go outside, you might get a sunburn. Number 1 goes to the entire line of Kawasaki 650P twin motorcycles. Look, the bike themselves are fine. They're a 5 out of 10 all day, every day. And I can say that because I've ridden basically all of them by this point. They will turn on and get you from point A to point B, but the thing that makes this bike the number 1 nerd bike is the riders that they attract. Vulcans are sold to cruiser boys who think that Harleys are for tough guys and they don't want to conform to that image. They want to ride 5 miles below the speed limit in the left lane with their swing arm adorned and some lime green writing about the road less traveled or something. Congrats, my dude. Even Street 500 riders don't want to hang out with someone that nerdy. Then you have the Ninja 650, a bike for sport bike people with a crippling fear of hitting apexes. The Z650 is for people who desperately wanted a great value MT-07. And lastly, the king nerd of Dork Mountain that sits proudly astride their beige behemoth, the Versys 650. Like I said, all these bikes are fine. They're motorcycles. What more do you want? They'll start, they'll go, they have 2 wheels, they stop, they lean, great. The problem is that whenever we mention them, their riders come out of the woodwork like a Zerg bioball, but instead of heralding the end of the Terran Dominion, they're armed with a 65-point essay about how their bike is the best, and we just don't get it. We had a guy literally talk about minivans on one of the comments for that video. I mean, for God's sake. Kawasaki 650 boys are like Jehovah's Witnesses, but their Lord and Savior is the world's okayest bike ever. I will never understand it. I will not stop putting these people on blast until we are safe from this plague. You have my solemn promise. Fact. Nicknamed sea bunnies, Geruna parva is actually a highly toxic species of sea slug. Goodbye.
Keep watching.